And welcome back here to Adobe Live on this wonderful Monday morning/afternoon. How are you all doing? I'm Tim, even though it doesn't say that down here, but that's just the way it is today because I didn't expect to do this one alone, but that's the way it is. So we're gonna do it. It's just me and you now. And nobody to ask any questions, so I can ask all my own questions. Isn't that nice? But at least I'm not all alone because I have the wonderful people in the Behance chat. So, by the way, if you are watching this on YouTube, come on over to be.net/Adobe Live. Well, that was interesting. Here's the link. Join us there and say hi in the chat. And I can already see some people are joining us over there. Let's see who is there. We have Eve and Gelana and Jan. Hello, Jan. And Linda and Sean. Hi, Sean. And Stefan and Stuart and Tim, whoever that is. Very strange today, but oh well. Yes, so thanks for joining, everybody. Let's add some music to the mix. I have a fan going in the background because it's very warm today in Munich, and I hope you can't hear that. Good morning, Mike. Let me know how the weather is over at your place. I would maybe just come over for a minute because it's way too warm. Anyway, that's not why we're here today, because today it's going to be all about motion tracking. We're going to make things stick. How to stick a thing to another thing, if you want to say it like that. So we are going to go to After Effects, because that apparently is my new favorite app. And we'll have some fun sticking some text, some graphics, some images to other things and making them look like they are part of the scene. That's the idea. So if this is your first time opening After Effects, do not hesitate to ask any questions you want to put in the chat. So feel free to ask me anything all about motion tracking in After Effects, and I will do my very best to answer everything you will ask. Right. And with that, I think we shouldn't waste any more time and make our way over to After Effects. There we are. Oh, hello. That's a nice background. Hang on, that's not supposed to happen. Ah, yes, so you can see behind me. Isn't that nice? Anyway, right. I will create a new project, new composition. Or not, I don't think we even need a composition today. We will create one based on the footage. So I will hit cancel. I have brought some test footage. And of course, I have downloaded that from Adobe Stock. And I can we preview that? There we go. Right. And this is just some test footage we can use. Some great one. And we will use all that to basically go through the different options we have in After Effects to track things and objects and people. And let's get started with the first one. So I think we will go with this one because I like that one. So I will just drag that onto the new composition window. So if you don't know how to do that, there is a button right down here. And if you click and drag something onto that, watch what happens. Boop. It creates a new composition based on the size of that footage. I will just fit that so we can see everything, and there we are. All right, so what I would like to do is I would like to create a name that we can attach to this person who's riding the bike here. Maybe that's an homage to Emma because, you know, she loves cycling. Right, so let's create a new text and call that, I don't know, Emma. It's not Emma, I know. And let's move that over to the side. And let's also, because why not, let's create, a background. Let's add a background just so we can see the text a bit better. How about like that? And put that to the top. Close enough. And I would like to have like a line that's sort of connecting from here to there. That's the idea. Bikey McBike face. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for the input. So let's create a new solid. Let's call that line. And I will just use the beam effect because that's almost what I want. I will just pick the color. Let's use the blue. Why not? Also for the outside. There we go. We want full length, so 100%. And yeah, thickness, that's fine. Softness, no, we don't want any softness. And there we go. All right, so we can take the starting point and just stick that right here. And we can take the end point and I don't know, let's put it on the helmet, because why not? Right, that's essentially what I want. And actually we can barely see that beam, so let's just make it white, because why not? That's better. Now we can actually see it. All right. So, how can we make sure this lines now sticks to the helmet? Because if we play that back, you can imagine, oh, that's not working, right? It's clearly not moving at all. Now the helmet is down here, and the line should ideally also point to there. So how can we make that? How could we do that? Any ideas? Well, we could go ahead and just keyframe the ending point. Now click that here, and then move a bit forward, and move it, and then just, right there. And almost. And then we have to do it for the rest of the video. And also, if we play that back, I mean, that's not, it's not great, is it? So let's not do that. Instead, we will use the magic of After Effects to stick that endpoint to the helmet. And we will start off with the easiest one, which is the point tracker, because what we're essentially doing, we're taking a point from the image and we're tracking that. So how can we do that? Well, I will first of all select the footage and then open the tracker window. For me, it's actually right behind me, so I think it's probably best if we just, yes, let's move it up here. I said, let's move it up here. There we are. Right. Let's make that a bit bigger so we can see. If you don't have that window, the tracker window, you just have to go to Window and then down to Tracker. And then you can add that window to your After Effects comp, and you can also take that off and just replace that, perhaps not with the composition. That's not what I want, but you can put it over here. Let's go back. Now we have a full window of that. That's great. I think we can actually keep it like that, since this will be our main window of the stream. Right. Okay. So now, Tim said tracking. I know. It takes forever, and it's not great. But it's done by me. Send me your footage now. Please don't. Okay. So let's take this tracker window and see what we can do here. Let's zoom in. Okay, so we have a couple of buttons to get us started. First of all, we can track the camera, we can warp stabilize, which sounds very Star Trek-y. We can track motion, and we can stabilize motion. Okay, right, so let's think, what do we actually want? I tell you what I want. What I really, really want is we want to track motion. Let's click that. Immediately, two things will happen. First of all those grayed out options become not grayed out, well, lighter gray. And you will also notice that we have a new object, which is sitting right here. Now you may be asking yourself, Tim, if your name is Tim, then you'll be asking yourself, Tim, what in the world is that object? What is that UI element? It's not very intuitive, is it? Well, luckily, I do happen to have a graphic for you, which hopefully should explain exactly what we're looking at. So let me just pull it up right now. Hey, there it is. So this is our tracker, our motion tracker. This is how we tell After Effects, please take a look at this particular thing and keep track of that. And it has a couple of options, regions in there. First of all, we have the search region, that's the larger one. We have the feature region, that's the smaller rectangle. If I actually can put it over here, we can see it on the side. Hang on, there it is. Oop. There we are. So this is the search region, the smaller rectangle, that's the feature region. And then we have the keyframe marker, the attach point, and so on. Okay, interesting. What does that mean? Right. Let's bring that back. And let's actually have a look at this. We can rescale those regions. We can move points. And the way it works is After Effects will keep track of whatever is inside this smaller rectangle, and it will search for that smaller rectangle in the larger one. So let's say we want to track, I don't know, we want to track the helmet, so we will just, actually I will zoom out for this. Let's use a high contrast point, like, I don't know, that one, that looks great. And now we want to tell After Effects, please keep track of this region, trying to find this one, and you can search for this region in the larger one. So how small or large should those regions be? Well, the smaller region should be as small as possible, but not too small, because you are looking for a unique feature that ideally does not appear in the larger region again, because if it happens, like if it appears again, this exact region, then After Effects could get confused and maybe mistrack your work, and we don't want that. And the larger region should also be as small as possible. But the issue is, let's say we have a really, really fast movement, like I hope not, but she takes a really sharp corner, and suddenly her helmet is over here, the next frame. Then After Effects would get confused right now because it couldn't find the helmet in this search region. So if we know the helmet suddenly moves a lot, then we would have to increase the region. For this one, I think we are fine if I leave it around here, because I know it doesn't move too much frame by frame, so we should be fine. And this one, I think we will make it a bit larger. There we are. And that should work. Keep in mind that larger regions will mean slower render times or slower track times, because for small regions, it's almost real time. For larger ones, it can take a while, depending on how many track points you have, and of course, how long your file is. So let's keep it, I don't think we need the full 12 seconds. Let's just crop that down to about 5. That should be enough to get the point. And now, let's track. And to do that, we go on over to the tracker. And we see we have a motion source that's selected by default because I selected it earlier. Adobe stock, yep, the movie file, that's what I want. The current tracker, this is, we will come back to that later. The track type, this is important. For this, I think we should be fine with transform. We will use the other ones in a moment for the next movie. And we want to track the position, yes. Rotation, we don't care about that. And scale, we also don't care about that, since we just want to track the point. All right, so are you ready? Are you ready to track? Well, I think there's no time for now, so let's get started. I hit the play button, and now After Effects is going through and tracking whatever it can see. And immediately we can see, oh no, After Effects got confused. Well, that's not good, is it? So what can we do about that? Well, I would just go back to the best frame and go down here, delete those, and make the region just a bit bigger, perhaps. And now we can go frame by frame, just to make sure After Effects is happy, and looks like now it is happy. So let's give it one more try. Yeah, looking great so far. And this would be the time where we now play some music. Actually, I have some music. Hang on. Now you see why I didn't use the full 12 seconds. So how was your day? And I think that should be about it. Right. Let's stop that again. See, that's the things we can do when no host is here. We could just have some fun. All right. Okay. Now let's go back, and we see we have a path that's now has been drawn. And ideally, if we check that out, we should see that indeed the point is following. Wow. That's fun. All right, so what can we do with that now? Let's go out of here. And we can actually go ahead and apply that track now to a target. So actually, I think we have to do it from here. There we go. And we can say edit target. And we want to edit that line. Maybe. But the issue is After Effects wouldn't really know what to do with that. So instead of just applying the target right away, let's create something else first. And we will create a new null object. We will call that one, rename, call it one target. Because now we can actually go ahead and apply that track to the target. And then we can do other things with it, now that we then have the position data. All right, so edit target. We don't want to target the line. We want this one. Click OK. Click apply. We want to apply X and Y, so in both dimensions, up and down, left and right. That's okay. And there we are. Now, if we have a look at the target object, we should see that indeed it is sort of sticking to the helmet. Isn't that cool? And if you remember from the expression stream, now we can parent something to that target. So let's do that. I will just have the position ready, and I will just take the endpoint, add a keyframe, and now comes the interesting part. We take the property pick whip and pick whip it to the position. And if we have done everything correctly, now, yes, all right, success. The line is sticking. Huzzah! And actually, I'm not quite sure if I like that it's pointing all the way to the helmet, so I would just reduce the time a bit. There we go. Now it's not directly pointing to the helmet, but just a bit away. There we are. And that was our very first track. Wasn't that easy and fun? Yes, it was. Okay. But of course, we can do more than that. This is great. Now we understand how it works. Now we can take that and apply it to something else. How about, so we will close this sequence again. We don't need that anymore. And let's add the next movie file. And I think this one looks nice. So let's have a look at what happens. Oh, hang on. There we are. A car drives by. And what I noticed when looking at that car is someone already blurred out the license plate. Okay, but it's, I mean, it's not really blurred out, is it? We can still clearly read whatever it says. So why don't we try that again and actually blur it out? Okay, so let's take that footage, bring it in, create a new composition, and let's now have a look at that. And immediately, hi Jack, immediately we have an issue because we see there is some camera shake. And now this was essentially would disqualify us from trying to do it manually, because this camera shake, I think we would have to go through every single frame and do it by hand. And we don't want that. So instead, let's use our tracker. Let's find a nice frame right about here, and let's track the motion. Boop. But this time, since the car is moving away, it's getting smaller, I think we should also track scale. And while we're at it, let's also track rotation, because why not? Maybe the camera is rotating slightly. Right? Okay. And now we see, instead of one tracker, we see two. Because remember, if you want to track how large something is, ideally you would have 2 points to see how large or how rotated the object really is. So let's try and position them. I think the first one could, let's just move them both over here. I think we could try those corner points here. So right about there. Let's make that a bit bigger. And scale that up. Let's try that one more time. And now I would just advance through one frame to make sure this region is still in there. And yes, we should be fine. Yep, that point is still in there. Great. Okay, so we should be fine. Now, before we get started with tracking, let's have a look at the options which we are presented with. Because for the first time, we just went through and hoped for the best. But I think we can have a look at some options which we have in here via the options button. Right, so let's zoom in and let's have a look. First of all, we can give our tracker a name. Well, that's great. Let's call it car. We can use a tracker plugin. Right now, since we only have the vanilla After Effects one, we just have the one. But if you have another tracker installed, this is the place where you could select that. We can check out the channel, how After Effects is tracking. If you, for example, have like a tracking marker, which is a different color but the same lightness as the surrounding objects, then maybe it could be a good idea just to change it to RGB. Luminance is great because you can, if you have like a lot of contrast, then it will ignore color. That's great. And saturation, I think that's self-explanatory. If you have a differently saturated object that is maybe changing color, then you could track it like that. But I think RGB for us should be the best option. We can enhance before we match it. We don't really need that one. We can track fields. This is only important if you have interlaced footage. This is, so if you have like those old-timey ones where you have every other line, every other frame, then you will need to enable track fields. Sub-pixel positioning, that's just some After Effects magic. That's very good. And adapt feature in every frame means that if something slightly changes, for example, if you're tracking a face, that face might slightly change. So if you want to adapt that feature to whatever's happening, then it could be a good idea just to enable that. But I hope our car isn't moving too much, so we will just leave that one unchecked. But now this one is important, because if you remember just a couple of minutes ago, our track, it went bad. Oh, hello. And can I close this? Close. All right. Okay. It went bad. It lost track. So what happened is it tried to adapt the feature, but it didn't work. So instead, I think we should just say like, hey, just stop for a moment and let us intervene if necessary. And this will happen if After Effects is no longer more than 80% sure that this is a target. So if it says like, ooh, I don't know about that, it will stop tracking and ask us, and then we can continue at any time. All right, so let's click OK. Let's zoom out and let's track. And I think for this, we can also, we don't need to do that much. So make this fit. Bring it back to there where we were. I think that was about here. There we are. And let's track. We can actually track in both directions. We can track backwards, so in over that way, or we can track forwards that way. So let's start with tracking forwards. And we can see the tracking points, they stick to the car. And now After Effects says like, oh, I'm not sure about that. What do you want to do? Do you want to continue? And we can check and see if it's still on track. And yep, pretty much is. So let's just see. Yeah, we're good. We can continue. But thanks for stopping After Effects. Very kind of you. Oh, no, I didn't want to move that. I would just want to pan. Sorry about that, After Effects. Right. And I think you can just go on a bit more. Yep, we're still good After Effects, but thanks for asking. Right. And now, since the car is disappearing behind the astronaut, After Effects is no longer sure. So I think this is a good point to stop for us right now, because we could go in and roto out the astronaut, but this is not the point of the stream today, so let's not do it. Let's leave that for another day. And let's actually go back and track backwards. So we have the first part of the shot 2, and also this point will at some point run out of space, so we will hopefully also stop there. Or maybe not. All right, maybe After Effects was still confident, but that's okay, because nothing is happening over here anyway. Right. So now if we play that back, the car's coming in and cruising off. There we are. All right, we're almost there. Because now, I once again can, oh, you know what? Let's not create a null object. Let's, in this case, let's create just a mask. So let's bring that car. There we go. I will just quickly draw a new mask, or actually a shape layer. So new solid. Let's pick the color of this. We could also do an adjustment layer and blur out the plate, but I think this one will be just fine. And of course, that's not great. Let's reduce transparency so we can see what we're doing. And I will just quickly generate a very rough mask. And let's increase opacity again. There we are. And we could play with that. We could perhaps feather the mask, you know, all the things we can do. We could play with the brightness of that color. This is really not the time for us to do that right now. So let's just keep it at that. And let's see what we can do. So going back to the track, edit the target, yellow solid. That's right. Thank you, After Effects. Apply, X and Y. Indeed. There we go. And now we have an issue because, well, that's not right, is it? The mask it's tracked, but it's not really on the car, is it? So what have we done wrong? Well, we could either we could play with the anchor point. I think we can do that. I wonder if we can just, I think it's what, A for anchor point. Yep, there we are. No, not of the car. I just want that anchor point. There we go. Just zoom out so we can see what we're doing. Oh dear, I think I should have set that to a no. That would have been the better point. Let's actually do that. Let's be good people. Let's set it to a no, because that's the way it should work. Because then we have more flexibility. So, new null object. And now we can go back. And we can set the car. And I want to edit that track, please. Transform. No. There we are. Okay. Can close that. And now the null object should be sticking, in theory. Oh, I forgot to apply it. Duh. Apply. Yes. Okay, the null object is sticking. That's good. There we are. Okay. And that's actually... Oh, hi, Emma. Hello. You missed your appearance as Emma Lextreme just a second ago. Well, that's all right. And actually, let's create an adjustment layer, because I also like that. And parent. Right. And now, let's create like the mosaic to the adjustment layer. Yeah, go away. Thanks. Right, and let's add the mask now. So T for transparency, so we can see what we're doing. And let's just use a rectangle, because why not? Can't be bothered now drawing a mask in. And now, yes. Of course, it's having some issues if the car is out of frame, but we will see how we can fix that in the next video. Right, and now the car is indeed moving, and we have managed to properly blur out. We actually now increase that again. Something like that. And there we are. That's much better. And again, we could feather that mask, but I'm not gonna, because I can't be bothered now. All right. Oh no, Emma. Oh dear. Cool. So now we have properly blurred out that license plate. I'm still bothered by the camera shake. I think, aren't you as well? Like that camera shake? I would feel much better if it was like a solid shot, just sitting on a tripod. I think I would really like that. So why don't we try and do that? How can we stabilize footage? Well, let's see. All right. First, to make things easy for us, I will just pre-compose everything. So pre-compose over here, move all the attributes, yes please, and now we are just left with this plain old piece of footage. Could be any footage and nobody would ever know. All right, and now let's try to track the camera and see if we can stabilize the motion. Luckily, there's a really easy way for us to do that. So let's have a look over at our tracker. We can see stabilize motion. Well, that's exactly what we want. Yes. So let's try and do that. Stabilize motion. Once again, we're greeted by this track point, and After Effects is saying again, could you find me something to keep track of? And I'm like, yeah, of course, After Effects, I got you. So let's make that bigger so we can actually move it. And let's find something. So ideally, of course, something that isn't moving. That would be great. So maybe we can try the rocks down here. That looks not too bad. That one maybe has a nice contrast. And let's just zoom in so we can see what we're doing. And I think if we can perhaps track those two dots, then we should be in pretty good shape. I don't think it's moving too much, so I don't think we need that huge tracking area. I think maybe here should be fine. Let's just check. Yeah, that's fine. All right. And now let's try to track. All right. Music. Okay, and of course we also want to try it backwards, so let's do that way too. And you can see, since this area is much smaller, it's essentially in real time. And we don't have any issues because it's really easy to track. Okay, I guess you could apply the same technique for text if we want to attach text to the back of the backpack. I think we can try that out in a moment if we have some time left. Yeah, of course, you can attach anything. And we will actually place some text in a moment, hopefully, if we have the time. Right, so now that we have tracked this point, we can say, like, what do you want to stabilize? The pre-comp? Yeah? Okay, thanks After Effects. And there we are. Now if we play that back, we immediately can see the camera movement is gone. But there's a new issue. We suddenly have, if we look over here, oh no, well that's not good, is it? How can we possibly fix that? Hello there, General Kenobi. And hi Angus, good to see you. We're doing After Effects and we're tracking motion. And we're also trying to stick things to other things, and we're going to stabilize motion. That's what we're doing today. And I'm all alone. Oh. Okay. So how can we now fix this empty mess up here? And if you can barely see that, I can just quickly bring in the solid with a nice color, yellow perhaps, put that behind, and hopefully now you can see why we should definitely fix this. There are two options. The first and easiest one would be just to crop it in. Like, who's going to notice that you have cropped this part away? Like, nobody will care, right? They are looking at the astronaut. But, you know, that's not great, is it? Because then you're losing resolution and maybe you don't want to do it. Instead, I'm already looking at the chat, Jan. Very good. We can try our way at content-aware fillets sitting right behind me. So let's do that. Just put that down here so we can see what's going on. We'll click here. And we'll just get rid of that yellow solid because I don't want that anymore. Because now we can see content-aware fill has indeed noticed that, oops, something is missing. Would you like to fill that? And I'm like, yes, please. So, in the interest of time, I think we shouldn't do too much, perhaps starting here and right about to here, maybe that. We don't need the rest. I think you will believe me that the rest is working as well. So about from here to there should be enough. Okay. And, you know, it's actually really easy. The only thing that I have to do is check, first of all, what do I want to fill? We could try the object method. It should be fine. Sometimes the others work better. But let's stick with object for the moment. Lighting correction. I don't think we will need that. Range, work area. Yes, please. We don't want to change the entire composition. So let's click generate fill layer. And of course, After Effects now. Thank you, Annika. Apparently, Annika has programmed this interface because After Effects is asking us to save. And we will call that one Crash Course Tracking. Save. Okay, After Effects is now going through, and you can see that. Right, that's percentage. And this again will take a while because depending on the size of your footage, depending on the length of your footage, this will take a moment. So in the meantime, we'll just have to wait for that. Okay, that's enough. And so what After Effects is essentially doing right now is it's going through the different frames, seeing what's missing and trying to interpolate or rethink of new objects, new things to put in there. We can actually go ahead and create a reference frame first if we wanted to. You know, sometimes After Effects doesn't quite know what's supposed to be there. Like if we're removing the astronaut, we could go ahead in Photoshop, create our reference layer. And then After Effects will know like, oh, that's how I have to replace it. And it will use that reference layer to help it out with filling in the details. For this one, we should be fine. So I don't think we will need that reference layer. And now After Effects is really going at it. There we are. It's analyzing. And in a moment, we will see that it will fill in this layer above. And the way it does it, is creating a new fill layer, which is down here. And so the cool thing about this is it's non-destructive. So if we at some point decide like, oh, we don't really need that, or we don't want it, or we want to try again with a different method, then we can just go ahead and delete that, and we should be fine. Okay, now I don't want to search anything. Thank you. And it's rendering. Tim is so tall. That's a normal guitar. Yeah, I know. Isn't he a little tall for a stormtrooper? Or the astronaut? Hi, Eve. Motion-aware fill. No, content-aware fill. Content-aware motion fill, I guess. And if everything is... Oh, hang on. Yep, there we are. Already finished. And if everything is working correctly, then we can see... Da-da-da-da... Like outside the work area. Ooh. Inside. Yay. And you know what? What I really like about this is... it even remembers what was here. So if this part suddenly goes out of frame and comes back in, it will remember what was there and will use that to refill it in. So it's very smart, very cool. Like you can see that here. It remembers what was there. Super cool. And we can't even see where it stops and where it starts. At least I can't. All right, so this is how you can fix that. And we can see, yes, Sean, indeed, the top part is a bit funky. Now, this depends on the, this depends on the algorithm you use. You can also try edge blend. Maybe that will work better for you. Or maybe we just have to really create a reference frame for After Effects to riff off that. And in my testing, it actually looked better than this. But, for a minute and a half, it's not bad. And maybe we can crop it also in just a tiny bit. So After Effects doesn't get too confused. And actually, I'm pretty sure it would be helped out if we started from the beginning, because then After Effects would actually have this part up here. Because, it exists. Here it doesn't. So After Effects had to think whatever could be there. But if we started here and actually tracked the entire thing, it would look better. Trust me. Okay. Right. Sweep the edges under the frame. That's right. There we go. Cool. Let's now go over to the next bit. Because now we have tracked objects, we have tracked movement, but I really want to track a bit more, something more advanced. Because who was it who mentioned the text? I think it was Stuart. Was it Stuart? Yes, Stuart. Could you apply that same technique for text? I think we should give that a try. All right. So let's get rid of this composition and let's go on over to our next one. And I think, yep, that's the one. We have this lovely, let's try that again. Lovely. There we go. There we go. Drone shot of a field. Isn't that nice? And what I really want to do is I would like to place an object in that scene. Now you might be saying like, oh yeah, that's easy. I would just use a high contrast. Oh no, oh wait. There are no real contrast points for us to pick. There is no marker somewhere that we could... That's not really there, is it? And also we have like some perspective distortion. The camera lifts off the ground at some point. It's going forward. This is a nightmare. So how could we possibly track that? Luckily, After Effects is indeed helping us out here again, coming for the rescue, because there is something called Track Camera. There it is. And this actually is a fully featured 3D tracker. Isn't that cool? So I will just park the content-aware filter down there. We don't need that for the moment, and we will just track the camera. And I think so we can just go here. Yep, that's fine. And I don't think we need to start here. We can just from here to there about. There we are. And let's hit track camera and see what happens. So After Effects now starts a two-step process. First of all, it will analyze the footage. This is indicated by the blue banner, and the progress bar here. And after it has analyzed the footage, it will place some tracking markers all over the place. And then it will try to use its artificial intelligence and solve that move. What does solving mean? You know, After Effects now has like a whole host of points. And I was trying to think, how could a camera possibly move so all those points make sense? It's thinking, and at some point, hopefully, it comes up with paths like, ooh, if the camera moves exactly like this, then all the points happen to line up. So that's probably the way the camera moved in the first place. And it's doing exactly that right now. It's solving. This takes a moment, depending, of course, on however large resolution is, how long it is again, and of course, if you have selected some options in here, because we do have some, let's have a look at them. We can, first of all, say how it should solve it. Auto usually is your best option. Typical means you have camera movement that goes all over the place. The camera can move, it can pan, it can tilt, it can rotate. Flat means you just move the camera, but you don't really rotate it. Like if you're following someone from side to side, that's flat. And tripod pan means you have a stationary camera, but it's pivoting around, but it's not moving back and forth. It just stays on a flat point and looks around. Those are three options. I think if we wanted to pick it, we would go to typical, but auto for our means it's just fine. Okay, we have some more options. This one will populate in a moment after it has solved the camera. And we have another 3 checkpoints. We can go ahead and just scale that up. There we are. We can have a detailed analysis. Usually this doesn't really do anything for me. I just tend to leave that off. We can have an auto-delete points. So if some points happen to go out of frame, which happened with the car before, then After Effects goes like, oops, sorry, we don't need that anymore. Bye-bye. We can also hide the banner, which we just saw on the right. But we're done now, so let's have a look at what After Effects actually managed to do for us. So first, it actually tracked the entire scene. That's why it took so long. All right, okay, fair. Thanks, After Effects. Okay. If we didn't want to have that, we could just crop the right and left side. Oh, well. Now we can see some very funny confetti all over the ground. You can see that. And if I hover over that, we see this target appear. And hopefully, this should sort of align with whatever happens down here. If we go a bit further, we can see it's going further away. If we have a look over the side, we can see the trees. That's great. So now we can pick some of the points and we can place an object in the scene. I think we should place some text right around, I don't know, here maybe. So I will click, draw a selection on those points. The more the better, because After Effects will have more reference points. And now a target has been placed. I can now go ahead and right click and create text in the camera. Okay. The camera will be needed because this will now be a 3D layer. If we actually have a look at the mode switches, we can see 3D layer. And this weird border, that's actually called a bin. And this will become important if you have multiple objects in the same scene. And that's how they know which camera or which tracking data they should follow. All right, now we have text. And we can, of course, go ahead and perhaps rotate that text. So the face is the camera, sort of. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it goes like this. Maybe it follows this line down here. How about that? There we are. And now, if we play that back, we can see, indeed, it has been placed in the world. And the cool thing about this is, of course, we have the whole host of After Effects to throw at this at any point. So perhaps Ooh, we also want to add, like, I don't know, a shadow layer. And we can do that. We could go ahead into, no, wrong layer, sorry. Wrong composition indeed. That's what you get for working with multiple. We can go ahead and select the camera tracker. Now we get the points again. We can again select that. And now create. First, we can set the ground plane. That's great. And we can also create a shadow catcher. There we are. I don't think we actually need a second camera, but oh well. And the way it works now is we can, I think I just messed that up because I created the camera first, but we could add like a layer where we can project the shadow of the text so the text could have a real shadow in the world. That would be great. But what I actually want to focus on, because we only have another 8 minutes, and instead I would like, oh, thanks, Sean. It's not dark enough for that, but maybe it is, I don't know. You could try. What I wanted to show you is that you not only have to place text layers or boring ones, you can also maybe new solid, make that one black, even though it doesn't really matter. And perhaps add an effect to that, which, if we have done everything correctly, should now sit, yep, there we are, indeed, it's sitting in the world, and we're actually flying through that effect. Because even though this layer is not 3D, the effect very much is. So, we can actually place this one, if we position it a bit better, maybe we switch that one to the top camera, which is also very cool because now we can see how the camera is moving. It's that rectangle, or we can actually go to a custom view. We can see if we can find the camera. There we are. And if we select, we should even see how it's taking off, like it's moving, and suddenly, whoosh, there we go. So now if we say we want to look at the top, sorry, there we are. Let's select that particle system. And let's actually move it all the way over to the text, which is sitting way out here, which makes sense because this is a large field, right? Things are really far apart. Makes sense, doesn't it? And now we can go back to our camera. And now, in theory, the particles, fit. There we go. Now, in theory, the particles should be sitting at the text, and if we move them a bit more further up under the producer, nope, sorry, I think it should be Y, isn't it? Yes, okay. Can bring that up here, and maybe even just can really have some fun. We could even create some confetti, maybe. Physics. 12. And we can now I'm just playing around. I'm sorry. And over here, and particle, and quad polygon. And let's play that back. Hey, I think we need to make sure they live a bit longer than that. So longevity. Hey, isn't that nice? Now we're actually flying through that confetti. And there we are. And I saw the question from Jan. Yes, we could even place 3D models, like if you have some laying around, or if you also have Element 3D, that's a third-party plugin. You can also work with that. And there we are. Isn't that nice? All right. So, what to do now? Well, we could have a quick look at another effect because I would really like to show you, and this is a quick and easy one, how we can replace this, right? We have a monitor, and this is stock footage, of course, so we can replace it with anything we want. And how could we do exactly that? Let's try that out. So let's get rid of that. Bring that in. Create a new composition. And let's track. All right. So we want to track the motion. Yes, please. And this time we actually want to use a different track method, because this screen is not just facing us directly, it has some perspective. So we also want to match that perspective to our footage. Luckily, there's an option for that. We can say perspective corner pin. Sounds about right. And now instead of 1, 2, or 3 trackers, we get 4 for the price of 1. And they come in very small. So let's scale them up. Let's zoom in. Bring them up. So we can see better what's happening. Hello. There we are. Oh, sorry. There we are. Okay. And now we can place them on those targets, which conveniently have been created for us. I just need to bring them here. Sometimes those targets actually aren't the best. Sometimes I'll just use the corners of the screen instead. So instead of using the targets like this, we could also use just the screen corner. Sometimes they are a bit sharper than the target itself, but I think we can try at least for the moment. And place them right here. And also, since the nature of this footage is relatively easy to track, we shouldn't run into too many issues. Because if we play that back, and this time we'll make sure to, stop tracking. That's great. And let's go. Oh God, it's taking a while. All right. Okay. But we will see at the end, this is almost like just a fairly boring straight pan to the left. Or to the right, I guess, if you're thinking in terms of the camera. This should be fairly easy to track. And I think this huge area was very ambitious, so we can scale that down. This should also increase render time. Right. Decrease render time, sorry. And there we are now, so that's just taking a moment. In the meantime, and if you have any questions, of course, then do let me know. And, oh God, we're already at time. Oh no. Fine. Okay. Well, then we will leave face tracking perhaps for a different stream, maybe even tomorrow, who knows. Because tomorrow actually a guest, unfortunately, we had to reschedule that stream, so maybe I'll be back tomorrow and we will talk about face tracking and mocha tracking. Can you apply a just layer so it sits better in the composition? Can you apply adjustment layers so it sits better in the composition? Sorry, I'm not quite sure what exactly you mean with that, Stuart. Color-wise, Yeah, of course, you can apply anything to that. You can, and I actually want to, well, that's actually while we're waiting, show you a teaser for the next stream. This footage has like a face in it which is not really proper. I mean, I don't want to say it's not properly lit because, of course, it's a great footage piece. Like, it's amazing. But I would prefer it if it was a bit cooler and a bit brighter. So how could we possibly create this look if we just want to brighten up the face? And spoiler alert, we will use an adjustment layer with Lumetri, and we will track the face. That's how we would do it. So yes, I would say, if this answers your question, yes, we can absolutely do that. We can apply everything to that. The tracking data at the end is really just a set of keyframes. We can do anything with that we want. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. Oh dear. All right, I think that should be enough. I think we all get the point, right? Okay. So let's stop that track. There we go. And we need to add a target. So I will just perhaps, well, actually we could bring in this composition. Which one is it? 22. All right. Let's bring that in. Go in here. Go back to this. Edit target. Yes. Apply. There we go. It's a bit too small. There are two ways to fix this. For me, probably I will just use the scale and carefully, no, not that one. Just carefully scale that up until it's matching the frame. It's not quite matching apparently the resolution. Oh yeah, of course, since it's an iMac. Oh, yeah, fine. You know what? I have a better idea. We could go ahead, like, do it like this, and we could just crop this using a key. So we can key this out, create a hole, stencil it through, and that's how we could do it. Or the quick and dirty way to fix it would be to apply, hang on, a transform. And just scale it non-proportionally. Right? Easy. That's a quick fix. And of course, we could go ahead and play with the colors, because obviously this is not looking right. I think you can all agree. So we would have to check the colors of this. We would have to add perhaps some texture, some screen glare. But from there, we could take it or just keep it as very small, like this, which is also looking quite funny. Did you replace the footage? Yes, I did. Show it to me. Oh, well, that's not replaced, Tim. Although I do think it's funny. Anyway, oop. Yep, so of course, since we didn't track it at that point. Right? Glow. Actually, yes, probably. Although too much wouldn't look right. And also it's messing with the background. Anyway, right. That's essentially it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have learned a couple of things all about tracking and After Effects and how it is really, really easy and fun, because most of the time you're waiting is just sitting around, playing some guitar, maybe, who knows, and waiting for After Effects to create the render for you. You don't really have to do any work for that. All right. So let's go back to the big camera. And I want to say thank you for those who joined me in the live stream. And if you're watching the replay, also thank you, I suppose. Hello from the past. We will have the next stream tomorrow. Same time, same place. Maybe I will be back, maybe not. I don't know yet. But we'll certainly have a great stream waiting for you. And of course, on Wednesday, we will have the next one, and it will be with Katie from Wildflower Design and your very own Tony Harmer. So, see you tomorrow, I guess, or maybe later today in the US streams. At any rate, have a wonderful rest of your day, and try not to melt in your apartment, flat, or house like I am right now. It's not great. And see you tomorrow. Bye for now.